So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual chapter for April 2021. I almost said 2012. I heard that in my head, and I had to act really fast and correct it. Boy, would it be nice to go back to 2012, or back to, or back to. I'd like to go back to about 1981. Something like that. I think that'd
I
be.
don't need to relive the last year and a half or so, or the last 4.5, 5 years at all.
Yeah, well, you would just bypass those. It's just install a bridge, and bypass those and go back where you want to. And that might come up a little bit later on in our conversation this evening. But it is 2021. This is the virtual chapter. We are an IAC and IMDHA official chapter, and we are recognized and appreciated and loved by folks in a whole lot of other organizations as well, who will give you CEUs just for spending your time with us. So make sure after this evening that you let your organization know that you spend an hour and a half with Michael and Karen and Maria Bird. And they'll say, Maria Bird, oh my God, we should give you 2 hours worth or 3 hours worth of CEUs for that. I hope that they'll do that. I think that would be appropriate. So say hello, Karen. I'm here with my co-host, Karen Hand.
Hello, Karen. I always do as I'm told. I'm very directly suggestible.
Good night, Gracie.
That's right.
It's lovely. Well, it's good to see you, Karen, up there in the windy city of Chicago. I'm still looking forward to my trip. We need to make just a couple announcements, by the way. First of all, oh my God, we are just around the corner from what is this thing? What is this thing that those folks do in virtual Orlando?
The Hypno Expo.
The Orlando convention, that's right, that is virtually the Hypno Expo 2021, learning reimagined live online, May 21st to the 23rd. Just go to www.hypnoexpo.com to register or to get all the information that you want to about that conference, but it's coming up pretty soon, so now's the time to get ready for it. Anything coming up on your end, Karen?
I think we've talked about where the recordings will be and all of that kind of stuff, have we not?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And that's all I've got for tonight.
Yeah, we like to talk about where the recordings are going to be before we start recording, because then the people that are listening to this have already found it. Just thought I'd point that out.
And sometimes we do our brainstorming on the show, not behind the scenes. So
why not? It's good to figure these things out whenever you have the opportunity. And there's one more thing. I'm the president of the Hypnosis Education Association, which is a Florida group of hypnotists who, because of COVID, of course, have been forced to have their meetings online. And so we have our April meeting, which is April 24th. So just a week from this coming Saturday. It's a one-day meeting. If you're a member, it's only $35. If you're a non-member, it is $60. And we've got some great people, man. We've got Paula Doust, who was here on our show recently. Robert Otto is going to be the keynote speaker. Joseph Onesta is going to speak to us about the work that he's doing in weight loss. Lisa Mangoni is in remission from cancer, and she's going to talk about that whole process and the work that she does with others as well. And James Tripp, all the way from the UK, is going to be giving us a special presentation on adaptability in the post-COVID era. So really looking forward to that. You get all of that, my God, for $60 if you're not a member. So come and join us. HEAhypnosis.com is where you can get the detailed information about that.
And I should say that I will definitely attend now, Michael, to steal stuff from James, because on May 24th, Ashley Caputo and I have a full-day workshop on pandemic problem solving. And just in case we left anything out, we'll add what I learned from James to the workshop. That's the day. That's a post-conference workshop with IAC, and you can sign up at the same place that you sign up for the conference.
Absolutely, yes. Do that workshop with Karen. It's going to be fantastic. And I might mention, since you said that, I forgot to say that the HEA conference is recorded, video recorded, and everything. And all you got to do in order to get a recording, or access to the recordings rather, and you can download them to your PC or whatever you want to do, is sign up for the conference. Everybody who goes gets the recordings. If you don't go but you sign up, you'll still get the recording. So so you can always get the replays if you can't make it that particular day. We hope that you will be there to join us, because it's going to be lots of fun and laughs. We're also going to have some socializing time and some cool things to do, because it's this lovely family of hypnotists that have been in business together for, well, gosh, the group's been running for about 24 years now. And it really is a Florida family, and we'd like for y'all to come and visit with us. That's about all I can think to say, except that we are doing something a little different tonight. And we're going to start out with a feature, something extra for you. And I am really looking forward to it. We have in our midst, you know, a woman wizard who is a wizard of language. And she's writing books about magic words and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, of course, I'm referring to our co-host, Karen Hand. So Karen, it's good to have you doing this with us tonight. So
thank you very much, Michael. And I appreciate being called a wizard. I kind of absolved myself of responsibility and wizardry. I used to think I was a wizard, and that put a lot more responsibility on my back. As soon as I realized I wasn't the answer woman, and I could investigate and get things from my clients, it made my job a whole lot easier, and it made success easier too. So what I want to share with you tonight is how to augment your hypnosis sessions, script writing that you might do, with your clients' personal trance words, and how you can find out what your clients' personal trance words are to just drop in. Now, even if you're using some kind of script, once you know these magical words, they resonate well with the client because the client speaks them. When you drop these in with the scripts, it even makes it more powerful for your client. So to demonstrate this a little bit, I would like to have somebody play with me. Chris, will you play with me for a few moments? If you'd rather not, you can have somebody else. But if you would like to, unmute yourself and play with me for a moment.
Okay, I'm here.
Thank you so much. We're going to get Chris's personal trance words, and it's really easy. And then anytime we want to help persuade Chris to do something for us, if we'll drop these in, it will work brilliantly. So Chris, in a job, what has to be in a job for you for it to really be important to you? What has to be there?
Constant learning.
Learning.
Yeah.
Good. How do you know you've done a good job at something?
Let's see. Internal feedback.
How do you know that internal feedback?
It's a feeling. It's a feeling.
Any place in particular?
In my heart.
Ah, good. Thank you. So in a friendship or a relationship, what has to be there for it to really be of value to you?
I want to say authenticity, or people being genuine and real.
Yeah, good. Do you have a hobby?
Yeah, photography.
Ah, what draws you to photography?
I have always been sort of a photojournalist. I like taking pictures of life around me. I like to be an observer.
Ah, and what does that do for you?
Gives me insight and wisdom.
Excellent. What's the most relaxing place you can think of?
Let's see, any kind of hot spring. Particularly in Colorado.
So I wonder if just for a moment, you would just take yourself to that hot spring.
Okay.
You might close your eyes. You might just imagine it. Just take yourself to that hot spring. And there, as you're enjoying yourself, just imagine for a moment the learning that will come out of this event that we're going to experience with Maria Bird in a moment. Imagine as you pick up new things, a tidbit here, a tidbit there, experience something, the internal feeling that you will have. Because she is so authentic and genuine, you will have a genuine, authentic experience tonight that is powerful and meaningful to you. As you observe what's going on, you might even take a snapshot to remember something about it and take that with you as you enjoy the wisdom that you developed tonight and the insight from this experience that we'll have together. As you're ready to really learn and develop that wisdom and insight, come all the way back to the here and now, eyes wide open and ready to learn something new.
Very nice.
How
Yeah,
did that feel?
that was awesome.
And did
I
you
was
see,
there.
did you see what happened?
Yeah.
I just wrote down her words, her value statements,
Sure.
and then talked about what we were going to do tonight. And what she told us is learning is what makes a job enjoyable for her. She knows she's done a good job because of internal feedback, a feeling. A relationship is meaningful when it's authentic, genuine, real. She's a photographer. She likes to observe. She gains insight and wisdom from that. And the hot spring is her wonderful place. Now, I just happen to bounce off of that. But if you gather this information and keep it on with your client, it can become a whole script, or those words can add impact to any suggestion you give them in that session or a subsequent session. And that's how you elicit those. You ask really bizarre questions and hear their value statements about it.
Awesome.
Eliciting personal transfers. Chris, thank you so much for playing with me.
Great. That
Good, good. If you have any questions about that, you can always email me, Karen@KarenHand.com, and I'm happy to share. And now I think it's really important for us to learn something from the authentic and wonderful, witchy Maria Bird. Now, Michael, I didn't mean to cut into your intro.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. In fact, you're saying all of the magic words, once again. But first, I do want to thank you, Karen. Your piece was just marvelous, and
Thank you.
Really some useful, wonderful stuff. And you said authentic, genuine, and real. And that's one of the things that I'm going to tell you about this young lady that we're about to talk with, because here's what I remember. I didn't have a proper former bio for you, Maria, to read. And besides, if I were to tell you, let me tell you about my good friend, Maria Bird. You certainly don't want me to do that. But I got to tell you, I was just thinking about the day that I met you, and I don't know if you remember, but we were in New York. We were in New York City. I think that this is the first time we met. We might have had a brief passing in a hallway somewhere or something, but we had gone out to dinner, and I really hadn't gone out to dinner with you. I was sort of there, connected to the same group that you were connected with, and you were telling a story that was just completely captivating me. A rather dramatic story, quite frankly, of something in your experience with hypnosis and stuff. But it just completely reeled me in. And the thing that I noticed about it is, in fact, just what Karen said: authentic, genuine, and real was the deal. Such an open spirit, and so brilliant and insightful that I have loved you ever since. And one of the things that happens so often is at conferences, if you're doing a presentation somewhere, I'm doing a presentation somewhere else at the same time, or we're at the tables in the vending, or whatever it is, and we don't get as much opportunity as I'd like to have to be able to see and hear some of the people that we really enjoy and that we really know have a tremendous contribution to make. So I invited you to be on the virtual chapter so that I could get an opportunity to see and hear you and to have a chat with you. So welcome, Maria Bird. We are really happy to have you here. And I've got to tell you, by the way, everybody, but get ready for this. Brace yourself, Maria. I'm going to say the word. Maria styles herself as a motivational witch, because I had to ask her, I said, can I call you a witch? Would that be all right? And she said, motivational witch. So I love that title, actually. So a real MW, more magic, more witchcraft coming your way, and somebody again who has me completely enchanted. So Maria, welcome to our chapter. I've got you muted again, by the way. So we should take care of that. Or I think you need to take care of it. Can you do that? Bottom left. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hi. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great.
Well, that's great. That's great. It's funny that you should mention, that story. I tell that story a lot. It's the story of how I became a hypnotist, right?
I believe that it was. In
Yeah.
fact, I'd love for you to tell some of it.
Please tell it.
Many years ago, I attended a workshop, and the workshop was meant, it was for a trance dance that was going to happen later on during that day. And the workshop was about being taken by a god or a goddess or, spirit or something like that. And the reason I went to that was because I had something that happened to me during a meditation. So I was very, very interested in, what this was about. And during the workshop, without anybody's permission, they hypnotized the whole group, including myself. And I knew I was being hypnotized towards the middle of it, but by the time that I realized it was happening, I was going, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep, and I fell asleep. And this particular workshop was pretty bad. It was 95 degrees outside. There was no water, no food, and we were sitting in the sun, in the hot sun for a long time. So we were easily, suggestible at this particular point. And when somebody guises hypnosis as a meditation, you just automatically go into it anyway. So what they did was they hypnotized everybody to where there was a period of time that most of the people that participated do not remember, but they do remember coming back to whatever the guided meditation was. And I wasn't really sure what had happened during that time. All I know is I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to participate in the dance. I was tired, it was hot, and I wanted to go home. And I was being stopped from going home by the person who conducted the group meditation. And so I did my best to get around it. I wound up getting sick. I kept on saying I was getting sick, and then I made myself sick, and then I went home. A few people that I knew that had not participated in the workshop, but did go to the trance dance, they were told at the dance that if they did not participate in the workshop, they would not be taken. And so I knew from the limited experience that I've had with hypnosis that I was hypnotized. I said, did they see anything before anybody was taken? And so my friend said, yeah, they did. They said, who are you now? And they would just start flailing and doing all kinds of things. And I was really upset about the whole process and what had happened, because I wasn't asked to be hypnotized. Had somebody asked me, I would have, I might have, but I wasn't asked. And I was so afraid at that time, because I didn't know enough about hypnosis, that I thought if I went into work and somebody said, who do you think you are? I would start flailing in front of them and doing some kind of a dance. So I learned everything that I could about hypnosis and what could happen, what couldn't happen. And while I was learning, I figured, I might as well get certified in the process. And so that's how I became a hypnotist.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I resonated with that so much when you were telling the story, because First of all, there's two things that are going on in my mind, and I have to get this out here too. I was involved with, and some of you know it. Certainly, by the way, I'm not comparing the intensity of my experience to yours, but I was involved with EST back in the days when Werner Erhard was still there, and it was, the old Nazi EST, and we didn't do hypnosis in EST either, but we did do a number of closed eye processes, right? And there was somebody at the front of the room that would talk to us in this tonality that, and you knew that they were doing a number on you if you were, or actually you didn't know that they were doing a number on you, I think is probably more accurate. And literally my husband and I, after several years with EST, we met there, we literally, I described my exit from EST as an escape. We escaped. And that's exactly how it felt for me. So I really appreciate that this can be done. On the other hand, I came into hypnosis from religion.
Another form of hypnosis.
Well, exactly my point, right? And so another form of hypnosis where we were doing closed eye processes too, no question about it. And so. And I have this sense of ritual, by the way, which is something else that makes me appreciate who you are, and something I hope we can talk about just a little bit later on. But the relationship between those things, there is good hypnosis and there's bad hypnosis.
Exactly.
Just like there are good witches and bad witches, I suppose.
Exactly.
So
when I teach my students, I have them view different videos of, say, Tony Robbins. We'll do, who is it? Tony Robbins. I have, I can't think of the religious person off.
Joel Osteen, maybe?
That's it, Joel Osteen.
You threw me off, religious person, but that was a different thing.
Yeah, and this last go around, while I was teaching, I had everybody watch The Vow. Have you seen The Vow?
The Vow. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I came very, very close to going to a meeting because this is in my area, and I had a couple of people that were very interested in this NXIVM thing, and I'm glad I didn't participate.
Yeah.
What is The Vow? I haven't seen that.
Well, it's a cult that was developed based upon neuro-linguistic programming, and there was some hypnosis involved, but they had everybody believing that they were doing good for mankind. And what happened was they were being, some of the women were being brought in as slaves, sex slaves, in this particular cult. Not everyone, but in a particular sect, they were, becoming sex slaves. So I have people watching different things to show how, language is used, magic words, how language is used, to either, motivate or manipulate.
Yeah.
And so, I want to make sure that anybody that I teach, understands that when you're in this kind of group, you're also very susceptible because, you think everybody is, authentic, let's say. And you don't want to be pulled into something that you don't necessarily want to be involved in, just because they're using the same language you're using. They're, speaking, because it's very easy as a hypnotist and as somebody who does neuro-linguistic programming, I could have been easily pulled into something like that because I already recognized it. So, and just recognizing what can be done with it.
Well, isn't that kind of a nice thing, by the way? One of the opportunities that we have is to be educators about that, and if they can use it to suck people in, we can use it to get people out.
Right.
Well, but cults work also. Cults also work because they're offering some value to the recipient.
Right.
The recipient has to accept the suggestion
Yeah.
for it to work. And so they're offering something of value.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wow, there's a nice little tangent that we've taken, but
We were
this
supposed to be
happened-
talking about past life regression
well,
tonight.
exactly, and this is something that happened in a past life for you and for me, because we've all moved on from those experiences, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
so tell us about past life regression. You got some. I know you've got some great stories to tell.
Well, yeah, I had gotten into past life regression many years ago, not performing it, but reading books about it, because my grandmother had passed away. And so when she had passed away, I was very distraught, and I wanted to learn more and more about what happens when you die, and it brought me to these Brian Weiss books. And so I read every Brian Weiss book, and when he was in my area training, I thought I would take the training. Now, prior to me taking the training, I had gone to, like group past life regression to see what would happen to me. And, not too much. I would go into, there was this woman in my area, and she was running this group, a metaphysical group. And I went into the group, and I would sit there for the past life regression, and I would get like a picture here. I wouldn't, I would be very disappointed at the end of it, because you're always expecting the movie, you're expecting like this big, epic thing to happen, and sometimes it doesn't happen right away. And so the leader of this particular group, she had seen me in a past life regression, and we had only known each other for a couple of weeks. And she told me that she saw that I was being killed. And yeah, it was a very strange thing. She said, I watched you being killed. And I said, so how was I killed? Because I'm a skeptic when, with certain things, especially my own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So I had asked her, I said, well, how did I die? And she says, well, you were being choked, you were being held underwater. And I used to have dreams when I was my early 20s. My ex-husband used to wake me up out of them, that all I would see is a hand and a very, very blurry face, that I was being choked. It wasn't necessarily, I could have been underwater, I'm not sure, but it was more of a blur. And so as soon as she had said that, I felt like my throat, whatever was caught, like holding that, the tension just sort of relieved. And so I kept on looking into, like group past life regressions. I wouldn't get too much out of it. So when Brian Weiss came, I figured this is my chance. I'm going to, go over there. I'm going to train. I'm going to find out all about this past life regression stuff. And so his group, past life regression, it was the same thing. I would get a picture here, a picture there, but nothing really, nothing that I could hold on to. It wasn't until the third day when we were learning, what do you call it? I can't think. I hate that. A rapid induction, thank you. We were learning how to do a rapid induction. And so we're all practicing on each other, and it was my turn. And so we did the rapid induction, and for some reason I had gotten the movie. So I went in, I saw myself in this cave. I saw water coming into the cave. Now, my friend in her past life regression would, she said that that she was Havasupai, and she was in the Grand Canyon, and she was very explicit about her thing. What I saw was being in a cave, looking out, thinking that I was in Hawaii, but knowing that I was in the Grand Canyon. They were pinning stuff on this dress, that I was wearing. And I thought at first that I was being sacrificed. So I said, oh my God, am I being sacrificed? And the girl that was, doing my past life regression, or woman, I should say, she says, oh my God, are you being sacrificed? and I was like, I had to think about it. I said, no, I think I'm getting married. And so she asks me, she says, do you love him? And I said, he's an honorable man. He saved my father. And then I went over and over again, because I totally had gotten into it. I said, he's an honorable man. He saved my father. He's an honorable man. He saved my father. He's an honorable man. So she says, are you nervous? I said, yes, I'm very nervous. And so then she said, look around, so I'm like looking around, I'm seeing people around. I had my hair in these big, huge buns, very much like Princess Leia. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I was questioning these buns. I was questioning the whole thing as I was going through this, right? So my hair is in like these big, huge buns. I'm looking out into, an area that had trees, it had blue water, there was a waterfall, and to me, it looked like Hawaii. But in my heart, I kept on saying it's the Grand Canyon. I said, I don't, none of it made any sense. So they take me out. She says, oh, let's meet your husband. So they take me to see my husband, and they put me in front of him. And there's all kinds of dances going on, and I'm in front of him. And she says, look into his eyes and tell me if you recognize this person. So I looked into his eyes, and it turns out this is my friend, the one that saw me die in her past life regression. So I started laughing. I said, okay, I know who this is. And because we were practicing, she said, now we're going to go to the last day of your life. And so we go to the last day of my life, and I start choking, and I'm like, ugh, like that. And she's like, what's happening? I was like, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, right? So she says, oh, well, you can rise above it. So, and in my head, I'm going, oh yeah, that's right, I can rise above it. So I rise above and I'm looking down, and I'm watching myself being choked in like this, it was like a little pool of water, but it was part of, a waterfall, but in separate waterfall. And so what happened? Oh, so then she says, what's going on? I said, bandits have come into the camp, and they're using me to subdue the rest. And then she has me rise into spirit and ask what my lesson was. And I always remember this because at the time, in this particular vision, I was like 12, 13. So I was married. I was like 13 years old. And so I rise above, I go into spirit world. I ask what my lesson is. And I was told, yours was not the lesson. So it was for everyone else. So I always think about that. If there's a child that dies, I always say, well, it's probably everybody else's lesson to learn how to deal with, the pain and suffering of a death. And so when I was brought out of it, I literally said, this is bullshit. I looked at everybody, and everybody's like, oh my God, wow, wow, wow. I'm going, I made that whole thing up. This is bullshit. I said, none of it made any sense. I said, I had, Princess Leia, buns, I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
None of this was real. I kept on saying I wanted to see my friend. That's it. I wanted to see my friend. I made the whole thing up. This is bullshit.
Yeah. If I can just add something as I'm hearing that, it's fascinating because while you were telling it, several times you said that phrase. You said, "Well, this didn't make any sense. This didn't make any sense." You kept saying that, and the thing that I noticed was I was trying to see if that's a really good reality test, because when I look at the world around me, most of it really doesn't make very much sense anyway, and that
No.
certainly doesn't mean that it isn't real.
Well, the journey that my friend and I had taken after all of this, I mean, was just absolutely amazing. So when I went home that evening, I called up my friend and I said, "Are you sure we weren't Polynesian and we were Havasupai?" Because she knew. She was like, "Havasupai," and I'm pretty sure you met my friend Renee.
Mhm.
Renee has come to Hypno Thoughts.
Uh-huh.
So Renee turns to me and she's very adamant. She's not one to be questioned. So I'm questioning her vision and she's like, "I'm telling you right now, we were Havasupai." And I said, "Okay, all right." And I backed off, but still wasn't really sure as to what I experienced. About 3 or 4 days, maybe a week, I was bored at work. I decided that I was going to Google. So I saw what I was wearing, the ceremonial dress. So I put ceremonial dress of the Havasupai. And so I'm looking at these pictures and, like in the beginning, all you see are, like what they're wearing now, so it was very, present moment, uh, costumes. And then I go down maybe about the 5th row and I see this woman with these big, huge buns. And I went, "Holy shit." and so I click on the picture and I'm looking at it and she wasn't Havasupai, she was Hopi. But I copied the picture, I sent it off to my friend. I said, "This is it, this is the buns. This is what this is what it looked like." And for me, I mean, I had a very limited education about Native Americans. So for me, all I know is Native Americans had long hair or they had braids. I had never in my life seen anything, with those big, huge buns. So this was brand new for me. And so I sent it off to her, and my friend Renee is the research person. So she started, getting the books together and found that the Havasupai and the Hopi did intermingle, did trade with each other, did all of these things. So it was a possibility. So we decided that we're going to go to the Grand Canyon.
Mm.
And this was like a huge trip for us. We had this tour guide. We stayed in the Grand Canyon in the Havasupai reservation part of the Grand Canyon for 4 days. And when we got there, my friend was looking at everything and all she was doing was crying. She was like, "Oh my God, this was in my, in my vision. This was this, I've seen this, I've seen that, I've seen this." I'm looking around and I'm going, "I haven't seen any of this."
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, for the first 2 days, I was miserable. The first 2 days, I would look around. Every time she cried at something, I was getting mad at her. Every time she said that she saw, particular things, it just bothered me. So, and all right, so I was in the worst shape of my life at that point. I didn't realize that I was carrying around a tumor with me. So yeah. So I was not doing very well on these climbs that we were, going on, and the hikes. There would be like 15-mile hikes, and it was like hiking up the hill in sand. It was horrible. So the tour guide came over to us after a 15-mile hike. And he said to me, not to my friend, because my friend was doing just fine, but to me, he said, listen, he says, I want to take you over to this place. He says, because I want to make sure that you can do this. He says, it's 200, it was 190 feet down, 195 feet down. And it's a big climb and you're having a hard time. And I just want to make sure that you're able to do this. Otherwise, we'll pick something else to do. So he takes us over to this place called Mooney Falls. And my friend and I mean, the two of us were huffing and puffing just going over there because that was even 2 miles away from the camp. And we had already hiked the 15 miles. And we get to the top of the falls and I looked down and I grabbed my friend and I said, oh my God, this is it. And she says, really? I said, yeah. I said, there's a cave down there. I said, when you look out, I said, I'm going to tell you, it looks like Hawaii. You're going to see the falls. There's water coming in, and I'm like getting very, very excited. And so the guy, the tour guide, he takes us through like these little caves and everything to the top of this where I'm going to climb to make sure that I can climb. And this is a steep climb. This was no joke. And my friend said, oh, I'm not doing that. And I had to curse at her and curse at her big because I was like, I watched you all this week. I said, this is mine. I'm going down. I look at the guy. I said, I think I can do it. He goes, sure you can. And I said, all right. And so the following morning, he says to everybody, he goes, make sure you take your toiletries. He goes, because I'm going to take you to this place. He says, he goes, not many people know about this, but there is a grotto right by the waterfalls, which to me was a cave. So he says, there's a grotto right by the waterfalls. And this is where the Havasupai prepared for ceremony. And so we're listening to him and he says, when you're inside, this grotto and you look out, he goes, you'll swear you're in Hawaii. Well, that was it for me. We climbed down. I mean, we had to do some other stuff before I actually, we came to the spot. But once we came to the spot, the seat where I was sitting was still there. Part of it was washed away. There was an area where this woman, was sitting, who was doing my hair at the time. You could see the water coming in from the falls. And it was exactly how I described. And I took loads of pictures of this area and sent it to the group that I did the past life regression with. And they were floored. So I'm a believer. Mm-hmm. I don't tell everybody else to believe, but that's my story. I was able to see something that I had never seen before. And I was very good about not creating something that wasn't true, because it could have been easily done. There were several falls that we had seen. And any one of those falls, I could have said, oh yeah, that's it. And made the vision murky, or, so yeah.
So you had some very tangible proof, Maria, that what you saw was real. You work with clients now in past life regression, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they can't or don't have that tangible proof, what do you say?
What I tell people is that there are different ways of recalling memory. And some people are very, very vivid. I get some people that can give me dates and times and whatnot. And then there are other people, what's going to happen is they'll see a picture and they'll have a knowing. It all depends on how you recall memory now. So if I asked you to remember a time from when you were 5, say a birthday party or, the first day of school, you might see yourself walking into school, or you might just see a picture of yourself in what you were wearing, but having a knowing that that was your first day of school. It really depends upon how you recall memory. And as far as how it progressed for me, I had done it so many times prior to the movie, I should say. And so each time that I did it, it was a little bit better, a little bit more vivid, but I didn't really get the full blown picture until, maybe about 6 or 7 tries. So I do have people who go directly into the movie, and then I have other people. I had one person who couldn't see anything, right? She said she was in darkness, and she says, "Oh, I don't see anything at all." I said, "But your feet are moving." And her feet were. I said, "What are your feet doing?" And so she said, "Oh, I'm dancing." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you know why you're dancing?" And then she said, "Oh, I'm at my wedding." I said, "In this lifetime?" And she said, "No." I said, can you see your feet?" And then she went down and she saw her feet, and then she realized she was a man. And then, gradually, the picture came to her. But in the beginning, she saw nothing. And, if I didn't, go in, like watch her feet, watch her movements as she was in, under, I may not have gotten that. So we there's a lot of different ways of getting to where you want to be.
Mhm.
I usually
I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm curious about something just that's sort of a practical issue with regard to this, because I noticed, for example, Lisa says in the chat room, she says, I'm a believer. You're clearly a believer. I think I'm a believer. I don't want to go there right now, but I know something fantastic happens there, and you've had some validating experiences, and hopefully you want to be able to provide those for your clients. But I guess what I'd really like to hear you tell me about is, so how is this experience useful? As opposed to, people might say, well, I want to past life regression because I'd like to know if I lived somewhere before, or, and I'm interested in, from a therapeutic standpoint, finding out what difference does it make?
Okay, so I had somebody who came to me for past life regression, and she went into a past life in Ireland. She was standing by a river, and she was about to kill herself. In fact, she actually did. She killed herself, but we didn't actually go through the whole thing. We didn't have to. So I asked her about her husband. It was same husband that was in this lifetime. I asked her about if she had any children. It's the same children that she has in this lifetime. It was just all in Ireland, and in the 1800s. And she killed herself in this particular life. And when she came out of this, out of the vision that she had told me, she says, well, I was thinking about killing myself. And she says, and now I realize that if I kill myself, I'm only going to go back into the same life. And she said, I better do something about this. So there's some therapy right there. And I had absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
And then I have somebody who comes to me pretty often for regression, past life regression, and sometimes regression. She, her first past life regression with me was pretty violent. I never expected her to go into, what she had gone into. And I was a beginner at the time. She went into a 2-year-old body, and she was being pulled into a closet where she was about to be killed. And so we had to pull her out of that. And so she's claustrophobic. Now she's no longer claustrophobic, but she keeps coming to me for different things that, that upset her and that keep her from moving forward. She's actually doing very, very well now. I think we've seen each other maybe about 6 or 7 times.
Does the process always point to the past, or do you have sometimes people visit future lives or parallel lives or something else?
Well, I mean, everybody has everybody's present is because of the past. Some people do see the future. When we were at Brian Weiss's workshop, he had everybody, go into the future. And the funny thing that everyone that had raised their hand saw was that there was nothing but water.
Mm.
There was hardly any land left, and there was more water than land. But there's still a future.
Mm.
Oh, and okay, so I had somebody go into a past life who was not human. So yeah,
Yeah.
he went into, and he was a cop too. He was a non-believer. He just said, I just want to try this out because my wife is making me blah, blah, blah. And so he went into, he was a giant, right? And he was full of hair. So I said, like a Yeti? He goes, no, not fur, hair. And I said, okay. And he said he was from the people of the forest, and he was a giant. He was between 9 and 10 feet tall, and he was the shaman of the village, but he didn't call himself the shaman. He just said the witch doctor. So he was the shaman of the village, right? And he was going to meet with other people of the forest on this island in the middle of a river. And he goes there, right? And he goes into trance. So he's in trance. I thought it was the coolest thing, right? I said, so he's telling me all of these symbols that are coming to him. And I said, well, what does it mean? He goes, the humans are going to kill us. I said, I said, really? And he said, yeah. I said, do you know how they're going to kill us? And he goes, yeah, they're going to come. They're going to attack us, and they're going to kill my people. And so when he came out of it, he was just like, he didn't know what to do with himself. He says, I'm not going to look at you anymore. He goes, I have to go and I have to process this. And then when he left, I started going online, looking up, giants, and if you ever saw bones, and apparently there have been. And then thinking about it, I said, it's in the Bible. So, yeah.
So after he went and processed it, did he report something back to you, or was this especially useful for him somehow?
I don't know if it was especially, like a special use for her. He goes, I don't want to talk about it. He's very he's a New York City cop, and he doesn't believe in much of anything. He's a very, very tough guy. He doesn't like anybody to see him weak at all. And he thinks all of this is woo-woo, so he doesn't like to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah. But for
Too
me,
bad, because the giant, whether it's real or not, could have been real emblematic of many things. It could have been a metaphor for a lot of things for this guy.
it could have been. It really could have been. For me, if it was a past life, I like to believe that if the humans do kill themselves, that there are other species that we may go into.
Well, I'm from Oklahoma, and I have worked with a couple of people in Oklahoma who definitely go into other species.
Oh, wow.
They become eagles or they become bears because Native Americans believe in shape-shifting, right?
Yeah.
And they believe in the present moment they can do that. So it depends. You know, I've had people that go into other things other than just humans, or, you know, pharaohs or princes or whatever.
Right.
And
Yeah.
whether they were an eagle in a past life or next week doesn't make any difference to me.
Right.
That is there for a very particular reason. I had a couple of experiences in past lives. I was a kosher butcher in the most recent past life.
That's cool.
And unfortunately died in a concentration camp in a gas chamber.
Oh, wow.
And in a life before that, I was on a slave ship and died of seasickness. And it was around all these other people who, it was just a terribly smelly existence.
Yeah.
Those are the experiences solved a problem, not a problem for me, but answered a question in this life. I have an incredible nose. I can smell things that nobody else can smell. As a matter of fact, I told my husband about a gas leak at one point, and he said, oh gosh, I don't smell anything. There's nothing. The gas company came out. They said, no, there's nothing. I continued to smell it, and 2 weeks later called the gas company back. And since it was the second call, they brought finer equipment and did find a gas leak in a hose and had to replace the system.
Oh, good for you.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, you know, that's a really sensitive smell. And so those two experiences I had in the past life experiences explain to me why I have developed that sense to such a degree. And it's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So at any rate, those were, whether it's real or metaphoric, it doesn't make any difference to me.
I have, you know, like sometimes I think that human beings create on Earth what has already been created. So I look at life as a virtual reality for the soul. And so we have virtual realities where we go in, you know, and we have the glasses on and we get totally involved in whatever we are experiencing. And I believe, my personal belief is that we pick and choose the life that we want to go into, to have the experiences, to learn whatever we need to learn, but also to feel. And I do get some pushback on that, because some people, you know, I have people who will say, well, why would anybody, you know, go into a life to suffer? And I said, well, why do you go to a movie, to, you know, like a horror movie? I said, because for the soul, it is different than what we are actually experiencing. I said, this is all about learning. This is all about, you know, getting past challenges. I mean, because if you look at life, how life, you know, how we learn, we go through the same thing every single time. You know, it's like a board in Miss Pac-Man. So there's a pattern, right? And we go through the pattern and we know, and once we figure out the pattern, we're able to move forward into the next phase. And you're given the same tools, you have similar tools, you get new tools, you go through the pattern again. It's a little bit different, but you learn something new, and then you go into the next board. And each board gets harder. You know, I mean, just because you're learning something doesn't mean that everything's going to come easy to you. So you're just going into each pattern until you actually beat the game. And what happens when you beat the game? Well, guess what? You're going to another game. And so that's how I look like at past life regression, you know, and how, you know, time is not linear. Because I've had several past life regressions, and they don't seem, for me, in my heart, they don't seem like they follow a particular time. And so that's my view on it. This is a virtual reality for the soul. We pick and choose everything that's involved. We have our team players we all know and love, you know, and we get to choose the team, you know, that we want to be on, just like anything else. And I feel that, you know, all of the stuff that we create on earth is something that's in memory from the soul. All we're doing is recreating something that's already been given to us.
Lovely.
So
Go ahead.
I want to be sure that we get this in before we run out of time. And this, we could talk about this stuff forever and ever. Tell me about your nature walks, because I know you take people on nature walks and have very wonderful experiences. Tell me about that.
Okay, so I take people on what I call the transformational hike. And the transformational hike originated from somebody that I was seeing as a favor to a friend. So when I first became a hypnotist, my friend asked me if I would take her son, who was a heroin addict, and see if I could do hypnosis with him. And I would not have him in my house because he had robbed a lot of people. He was in and out of rehabs, and he was thrown out of the last rehab that he was in. And so I told her that I would take him hiking and I would do hypnosis on a hike. And he showed up late. He was stoned when he came. And so the hike became more than a hypnosis session. It became something of me telling him that he was a grown-ass man and that he better grow the fuck up. Excuse me. and yeah, so we took a walk. I think the first hike with him, I yelled at him during the whole hike. Because he was wasting my time. He's wasting his mother's time. You know, he was 27 at the time. And by the time I was done with him, he was crying at the end. And he told me that he would do better. And I said, okay. I said, if I put together a program for you, I said, will you come? So the program with him was 4 weeks. It actually was 6 weeks, but it was intentionally, it was 4 weeks. And so I developed what's called the 5 R's. So the first R is to recognize. So you have to recognize what you want. You have to recognize what, you know, what's stopping you. You know, all of those neuro-linguistic programming questions, all of that was in it. And we do all the questions based on the hero's journey. So there's several different parts of the hero's journey. I have a whole questionnaire based on it using neuro-linguistic questioning all throughout. You know, because when you're going on your journey, your original journey is not really what happens towards the end. So if you look at Star Wars, and let's go back to Luke. So Luke thought he was going to save a princess, and really what happened to him at the end, or not really the end of his journey, but during the first, you know, saga, is that he had to, you know, fight his own demons in order to move forward, in order to find enlightenment. And so here we are, we're going to find out what his demons are, who are his demons, what, you know, what's triggering him, what's, you know, keeping him from moving forward. And I gave him a whole set of things that he had to do. His mother didn't talk to me for about, you know, about a year after this, because I made him move out of his mom's house. And so that was the first R. It's to recognize. You're recognizing what you want. And you're recognizing, you know, where you are on your journey. You're recognizing what's stopping you, the voices in your head, all of these different things that are keeping you from moving forward. So the next R is releasing. So when you recognize what's holding you back, we have, you know, exercises that we do that is to release all of these different things. So, you know, there's screaming, you know, I do, what do you call it? Oh, why? Primal scream. So we do primal screams. We carry around rocks that are, it's very physical. We carry around rocks that represent all the problems that we have been carrying. So if it's a small problem, you put a pebble. But if it's a larger problem, you know, like say, you know, you were molested when you were young, or, you know, you suffered some sort of physical abuse, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, bullied, if you were bullied, you know, a lot of people carry a lot of bullying from when they were little, you know, little children. And they think that everybody is looking at them a certain way. So we take all of these rocks and we carry them around, and then we throw them off this particular cliff. And after that, there is responsibility, because now that you've released everything, now you have to take responsibility for what you decide to do. So if you decide that you want to go for a goal, you're going to go for it. And we have a whole, you know, bunch of exercises to do about taking responsibility. And not only do we take responsibility of what we're going to do, we also take responsibility of what we decide not to do, who we let in our lives, because some of these people that we allow in our lives are toxic. And in the recognized, you know, recognition portion, you'll realize, you know, who are the friends that you are going to take along on your journey. That is part of your hero's journey. So when we get to the responsibility, how are you going to let go of these people who have been toxic to you? You know, a tree cannot grow. I mean, if you plant a tree, and this is what we're doing, we're planting a tree, we have to put a fence around that tree. Otherwise, you've got the animals that are going to eat that tree. You don't allow those toxic people back until you have actually grown, not in height, but in volume. You want to be strong, you want to be sturdy. And then you can start allowing people back into your life little by little, because a little nibble is not going to bother you. But when somebody takes a big chunk out of you, you have to get rid of them. So that's responsibility. Then the next portion of it is we rest and we reward. So when we set goals for ourselves, whatever we're doing, you know, a lot of times we go like full blown out there. We go to a gym and we'll overwork ourselves. And what happens is we won't go to the gym after that because we're too tired. And so allowing yourself to rest and actually look back and reward yourself for all the good things that you have done so far. You know, so I have a planner that I give out to everyone. And at the end of the planner, we review everything that we have done. And part of it is, what have you done? What weren't you able to do at the beginning, you know, of what the goals that you set for the week? Is there a reason? Do we have to, you know, limit some of these goals, you know, limit some of these targets that we're going for? Do we want to lessen it, or do you want to take responsibility for, you know, being lazy? It's okay to be lazy, but take responsibility for it. And then after that, we go, you know, to the end, and that's where, you know, your dream has been realized. And so we're standing on top and everybody is in power pose. And we do power poses all the way up. So we start in like the Superwoman pose, right? So you're like, you can't see me, but like with the arms to the side, right? By the time we get up there we do victory pose. Now I do victory pose different than some of the people that I have seen do it. So I've gone into class and victory poses like this. I don't do it that way. I do it as a gymnast. So when a gymnast lands and they put their hands out, but the hands are open, because not only did you make it, you're ready to receive. And you can only receive with your hands open. So you're ready to receive that applause, taking it in. And so again, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's it's a full day. Yeah. It's lots of exercises within each R.
I was going to say this is quite an arduous journey. When you were first describing it, I thought, well, so there's 5 R's. I bet it's 5 hikes or something like that. But this is really all is in one intense thing. Is it a really long session then, or how does that?
It's from 9 o'clock in the morning, and it can last up until maybe about, I'd say 5, sometimes 6, depending upon the depending upon how slow the slowest person is. Sure. All right, because
this is group.
This is a group.
Yeah, or you can do it one-on-one, I guess, because you did with the.
I have done it one-on-one.
Right? Yeah.
I have done it one-on-one. I usually do it in a group, though. With certain clients / friends, I will do it one-on-one. Mm-hmm. But with a group, it's an all-day event. There's something, there's also something that is going to be part of my hike coming in September. So I'm starting again in September because I haven't done a hike since the whole COVID thing. And what I'm finding is, because of the COVID and because of the fear of touching people, the fear of connecting again is so prominent in especially in a lot of areas. Even people who are taking the vaccine, finding themselves that they've been stuck in the house and they're still not going out, they're still not touching, and they're still not. Eventually we're going to have to get past it, and that's the way I feel. And anybody who comes on this particular hike that I'm doing in September, everybody's signing waivers. There's going because there's going to be a portion where we're going to stand back to back against each other. So we're not necessarily facing each other. We're going to be standing back to back, but we're actually going to touch each other. And we're going to, go. I do this exercise anyway, but it's going to have a different meaning this time. And it's, I trust you. I trust you. And just going back and then moving away and then facing each other. And I trust you. Because we have lost it. We have lost, not everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but there is a lot of people who have lost the trust of being around other people.
Sure.
And so I'm putting it out there. I'm going to make sure everybody understands it, and they don't have to participate in this particular, exercise if they don't want to.
What's lovely about this is you're reminding me of there's a renaissance going on. I'm remembering about 1969 or 1970. In fact, when I first went to college, I was involved with experimental experimental theater community at in Western Illinois, and we were, throwing people up in blankets, and all those, right, this stuff to engender trust and to create those kind of connections with people, and it's time for some more of that stuff to start happening in our world. So this is
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time, Marie, developing this clearly, and it's really a rich thing. It sounds like you've got a scheduled event. That is this something people can sign up for?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
how would they do that?
Well, they could sign up. They can go onto my website and get in touch with me there, or they can get in touch with me on Facebook. Or I can give out my phone number as well.
Well, and your website, because is it mariabird.com?
It's mariabird.com. It's very easy.
Very easy.
It's very, very simple. Or if you want to send me, what do you call it? A email. It's WINGS, the number 2, SOAR, the number 1 at yahoo.com.
Great. Yeah, don't give us your phone number, because we are recording and we're going to post this in public view, so you don't want to do that. If you do want to give your phone number out, you could put it in the chat room, because that will only be seen by people that are actually here right now.
Right.
It's a thought. But the other question that I have for you then, because as I said, you've apparently spent some time developing this, and it's beautiful. I just really love the whole idea of it. Is it something that do you train other people to do this with clients as well, or is this no?
I'm actually training this guy right now, because about a couple of years ago, I did a group with a bunch of women who were and it just came out in the during this particular workshop that they were molested, raped, all different types of things happen. And I used the same formula. I just tweaked it a little bit for them. And I want to do something where I'm taking the group of women, for this particular purpose. I also want a group for men as well. And, if that works out, transgender. I have a person that has attended my my workshop, and I have to be very, very careful with my pronouns now. They would like to do a transgender workshop, and so I was in the process of doing that last year, and then everything went everything was halted. But I'm in touch with this particular guy, and we're developing something for September.
That's a beautiful idea, Maria.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I always believe in take a technique and make it your own. So I thought of tweaking yours just a bit and making it just a slight bit shorter. Instead of carrying those rocks up to the cliff, I just want to carry the toxic people up there and throw them over.
Well, we do some of that too.
It's just an abbreviated technique, I think.
We do some of that too. I have to tell you, the primal scream, it means something to me, more so now after having the group of women that I had. So I had a group of women. One is a hypnotist who had written a book regarding her venture from cancer into being a hypnotist. And because she came on this particular trip, I figured, you know what, let me have her start and tell everyone, who she is. I told her she could, if she wanted to mention her book, she could mention her book and all of that. And what happened was she started talking about when she was raped, and she opened it up for everybody else in that group to allow themselves to say, yes, I was molested, or, and that's what happened with this particular group. But there was one young lady who would not open her mouth at all. Now she was young. And so I had asked her, I said, if I tailor this to, to the group, I said, do you want to still participate? And she said yes. But she half-assed it all the way up, right? Until we got to the portion where we did the primal scream. So she didn't want to do the primal scream at first. Everybody else is screaming their heads off. They're screaming about people. They're, like getting rid of it. And the best part of it was there was an echo. So you could hear it out, like it's outside of your body now. And I had taken her to the side and I had said, listen, I said, you don't have to say anything in my language, because she was not from this country originally. I said, I don't have to know what you have to say. I said, just say what you need to say. And I said, you don't even have to scream it if you don't want to. I said, we're just going to project our voice. So I did a little, singing lessons with her, on how to project her voice, just going ha, ha, ha. And so she goes over to the edge and she says what she needed to say in her language. And then she went, no, Poppy, no. And I lost it. And a lot of times when I tell this story, I lose it. I'm surprised that I'm holding it together right now. The tears started running down her face. And I just looked at her. I said, say it again. I said, say it again. And she said it about 5 times. And she had gotten this out. And it became something more. It was the reason that I had gotten into, what I was doing to begin with. I was doing workshops before I became a hypnotist, and it was to help people, and I went off on a tangent a little bit, like you get into the selling part and all, and you forget why you've gotten into it. And so it brought me back into what I originally wanted to do. And that was just help the individual. And from that point on, she participated in everything. And everyone who, they just saw the change. They said, what did you say to her? I said nothing. No one had to know. No one, she didn't want anybody. It was probably the first time she had ever mentioned anything like that in her life. I mean, she was probably about 24 years old, 25. And it's hard, but she like totally immersed herself from that point on all the way up the mountain. And she's in the pictures, she is one of the people that is standing big at victory. So I don't know why I talked, I got onto that. What was the question?
It's a lovely, lovely story. And as you said, so you've got this next one is coming up in September.
It's September, yeah.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, the remarkable Maria Bird, we are actually at the end of our.
Almost. Can I get one more question in, Michael, that's in the chat room? And you've got maybe 25 words or less to explain this whole thing, Maria.
Oh, just 25 words?
Well, we're close. The question is, why do you call yourself a witch?
Okay, so I had gotten into witchcraft when I was 13 years old. I've been practicing magic my whole life. When you understand what witchcraft and magic is, it's not as scary as you think it is. So basically what I do is I take my thoughts, my words, my actions, along with my feelings, align it with spirit, and create the life that I am living. Mm-hmm. And so by saying that I'm a witch, I am saying that I am responsible for my life. I'm responsible for everything that happens around, because I understand that my thoughts, My words, my actions, my feelings, and how I align with spirit makes a difference in this world. See, I'm getting very, very
Yeah. Very purposeful.
yes,
It's lovely.
and it is. It's very purposeful. And when you are not purposeful with what is coming out of your mouth and what is, that's when havoc starts happening. When you are doing manifesting work. So you can call law of attraction whatever you want. It's witchcraft. And it's witchcraft 101.
Mhm.
But if you are not taking responsibility of what your actions are and how they affect others, and having a clear sense, if you are not able to meditate, you should not be practicing magic. If you are not able to limit those thoughts, and so being a witch, I know that I have to meditate. I have to get into myself. And what spell work does is it brings you into a trance. And when you go into trance and you're bringing in the feelings and you are purposeful of what you're doing, things happen for you. Everything that I have put out, comes back to me. That's it. Go ahead.
That wraps it up beautifully, Maria. And if you want more information about that, mariabird.com.
Thank you.
And check out that September hike.
Yeah. So let's a couple of announcements again, really quick, just to remind you. Next Monday, so 6 days from today, the IACT-IM DHA Presenters Series will be on the air again. Michael Watson and Karen Hand will be interviewing Karen Hand and and Frederick Mao. So
And Ashley Lynn Caputo.
And Ashley Caputo, I'm sorry, about their presentations that are the post-conference programs at the Expo. So you want to be there because it's going to be exciting. And the Expo itself is May 21st to 23rd. So you got time to make your arrangements, whatever you need to do to go to www.hypnoexpo.com and get all the information and register there. By the way, there's 2 different ways to register. You can get a regular package, or you can get a package for a little bit more that gets you recordings of all of the presentations in the conference as well. So it's a really good deal. April 24th, that is the Saturday after next, the HEA here in Florida is having its online conference for a day with great speakers. That's heahypnosis.com. So you can go there for that. And that's enough of all that advertising, because now we need to send you off with the blessing that is your due. So are you ready for this, Maria?
Yeah.
Okay, because we want you
Everybody else get ready.
While everybody else has the opportunity to just go ahead and open up your microphones so that we can all tell Maria good night and how much we appreciate her being here with us. So thank you very much, Maria. We're
Thank
really
you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Love you.
Bye.
Forward to
Thank
seeing
you,
soon.
Maria.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Blessings. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Karen.
see you all next time.
Good night.